Hello and welcome to the NVR Podcast, number 17. I'm Rachael Aylmer.
And I'm Peter Jakob.
And today we are talking about We Are Peaceful. Just before we start, I know that the last recording I said that it was number 15. I got all my numbers mixed up. So we are at number 17, series 1. Just because I'm getting old, I keep forgetting. And we've done this many now, Peter.
Yeah.
So we are peaceful. We are peaceful brings up a multitude of thoughts and questions, I guess. I'm curious as to how we came to this title, as always, Peter.
Okay, so you're passing it over to me.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. You can do the intros.
Okay. Well, I guess various threads came together. I think it's connected with the idea of not blaming and not shaming the child. Shaming is exclusionary. Shaming someone gives the message, we don't want to have anything to do with you because of how you are. In NVR, we would like parents, teachers, carers to take a very different position. We'd like them to take the position, you belong to us. And we don't do this. We do not act with violence in this family. We don't act aggressively. We are peaceful in this family, and you belong to this family, and that's why the violence has got to stop. And that's very different from saying you have to stop being violent. Very, very different, because it takes the social context that the child is in into account. How we respond to each other, towards you, is an important part of that social context. And if we are going to be peaceful, we have to look at that and think of what that actually means. So if we have a situation in which, for example, parents shout a lot at the child, but possibly also at each other, and then they make an announcement to the child that the child's aggression must stop, they cannot credibly say, we are peaceful. So I guess it's that question of commitment. Can and are they willing to? Can they, or are they willing to make that commitment? And how does the NVR practitioner help parents who are not peaceful, and some are not, in that way? How does the NVR practitioner help them to make that commitment to become peaceful? How do they help them to see the necessity of that? So these are sort of thoughts that have been going through my mind. I've just been talking a lot. Just a penny for your thoughts.
I'm just thinking the amount of training in NVR that I've delivered, that there's a common theme in practitioners receiving the training. Say, when we get to the announcement stage where the parents get to write a letter and make a pledge to the child that the practitioner feels uncertain if they're holding a particular family in mind, that the family can make that commitment. Let's just think about some systems and structures where families have and are have violence and aggression ingrained in their communication with their families, that they've only ever learned that when things aren't going well, in order to get inverted commas, get control of a situation is by shouting and becoming aggressive. that's the only way that a family may understand. I think introducing peace and peacefulness, I think, can be a really challenging concept for families. I think it's for the practitioner. I think it can often be seen as weak by some families by acting peacefully and not responding with aggression. Can be seen as weak. Yeah.
I'm also thinking not just of the interaction between parent and child, which is important, but overall. So, for example, if I'm a father and I want to give my son the message, you can't act with aggression here because you belong to us and we are not an aggressive family, then it is essential that I stop having shouting matches with my wife. And the idea that we could somehow NVR the aggression out of the child without bringing about that change in ourselves, it's an illusion.
I recall years ago pulling up from work one day, and there were a couple of lads playing in the grass verge by my car as I parked, and they were playing with a stick. Two brothers, one small, one big, and the small one had a stick, and they were just playing with it. And the older brother took the stick off the little brother, and the immediate reaction from the little brother was to punch aggressively his elder brother to regain back his position of the stick holding. And that was the only solution that a little boy could come to. We're talking 5 and 7 year olds.
Mm-hmm.
That was his only solution that he could resort to.
Mm-hmm.
To get back the stick from my brother was to punch and cause harm and to cause distress. And, I just witnessed it and went about my day. But it always left me thinking about boys and thinking about peace, how parents can encourage a peaceful interaction, not resulting to aggression and violence towards each other and community. That's the only solution.
So if I'm a parent in a situation like that, and there is in our particular family a high level of sort of angry, aggressive behavior, even if we may not be physically violent like our child, then our goals need to shift, don't they? The goal is no longer just, we want to do something about Jimmy's violent behavior. The goal becomes, we want to become a peaceful family. And we want to become able to resolve conflict in the family in ways that are non-aggressive, that are actually cooperative. So the goal, I guess, for the NVR intervention becomes much wider.
Really wide. I think that concept, those goals, I think when a practitioner can spend time with the family to help explore that new preferred future and change within the family will take time. If I'm a mother of 35 years old and I've been parenting for 5, 6, 7 years of those, and perhaps I've grown up in an environment where shouting and cussing at each other is common practice. For the change to take place within myself and within my family to be a peaceful family will take time. I often have experienced in my practice parents saying, I know I shouldn't have done, Rachel, but I shouted because I lost my rag, or I know I shouldn't have. The first words that kind of kind of, it's almost a confession to me. You know, I know I shouldn't have done, and I know better, but I lost it, and I shouted, and then perhaps we'll talk about what that shouting brought about change, and the longevity in change, and parents feel quite shameful that they've almost breached their pledge to themselves to be peaceful. But it's most definitely something that parents can work on, and make small acts of commitment to, that they start somewhere.
I mean, that's a really important point, I think, that you've made, which is it's a process of becoming peaceful. And it would not be helpful if a parent says, oh, gosh, I lost it. I shouted at my child. Or as I remember in one case, I hit my child. It would not be helpful for the practitioner to wade in at that point and blame the parents. It's about supporting the parents in accepting their responsibility and becoming much more able to deal with conflict constructively. And I'm just thinking of one father who hit his son when his son had done something that was particularly egregious. It was really terrible what the son had done. Yet the father had made a commitment not to respond to his son with aggression. He'd made a commitment in the announcement. He wrote in the announcement, I have hit you in the past. I will not hit you again. And on this occasion, he'd hit his son very hard. He slapped him very hard in the face and left a mark. And so the father and I sat together and we talked about how does the father hold himself accountable for not having lived up to his commitment on this occasion. And I did something that, we teach on the advanced level training in NVR, which is I interviewed the imaginary future child. If we imagine his son in a few weeks' time or a few months' time being much more able to communicate his distress rather than just flying into rage, what is it that his son might say? And then I interviewed the father as if he's his son, and what came out was he said, and Dad has never apologized to me. Never said he's sorry. And so I said, so if your dad wanted to show that he really cares about you, are you saying that he would say he's sorry for the way he did on this occasion? And the dad, being his son, said yes. So then we came out of this exercise, and the dad grinned, and I said, oh, why are you grinning? He said, because I tell my son that he never says he's sorry.
Aww.
And so the dad wrote an apology to the son. He disseminated it among all the supporters, telling the supporters that he'd hit his son. And the dad and I together wrote a report to social services. And I then had another conversation with the social worker, and she was satisfied that for now the dad had taken the appropriate action. And the dad showed his son the apology note. And, and so he wrote the apology down, and he also showed the son that he'd disseminated this on his WhatsApp group.
Wow, how powerful for the father to hold that position. And we talk a lot about parents shaming and blaming children, but also sometimes do we talk enough about parents' shame? when they've stepped out of line, when they've acknowledged themselves that they've responded aggressively to their child's provocation, and the shame and guilt they're feeling too,
Yeah.
that they feel humiliated and angry at themselves for those behaviours, and to make amends with themselves. And that's almost that, when you were talking about that, Peter, about that parent writing an apology and then sharing it with the network of support, and also, expressing that concern and distress to a social worker, how he's making amends with himself, making amends with the network and the child for a behaviour that he knew he was out of line.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
Well, and I experienced it as really powerful at the time. And I remember my feelings towards the father. One feeling was respect. I felt respect for him because it takes courage to acknowledge what you've done in that way. And I guess another feeling was trust. I felt my trust in the father grow, that he was serious about his commitment towards living a peaceful life. And I thought, if my trust grows, just maybe his son's trust grows.
Yeah, possibly. And how then that enriches that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I guess there are many, many challenges that can present themselves to parents in that way. And often when we talk to parents, we talk about the other kind of challenge, don't we? We talk about the challenges inherent in no longer giving in to unreasonable demands, or some parents who've experienced domestic violence who may act very submissively towards their child. The challenge to stand up to the child's provocation and no longer acting submissively. But this is and de-escalating with the child in a moment of conflict. It's one part of this particular challenge, but I think it's much bigger than that. It's a challenge to redefine in a certain way the entire family, or maybe if it's in school, the entire classroom.
I'm thinking about practitioner positioning of being non-violent, and how being authentic in our approach as well, and how we're challenged to not escalate with others and to be authentic in our practice. I'm being challenged right now because I'm working from an office where there's a lot of outside noise going on.
Yeah.
And I want to go out there and say, shut up, but I'm not going to, because that wouldn't be very authentic. But if anyone can hear the outside noise, that's why, and I apologise.
So that raises an important question. I think you're raising an important question. The practitioner who is faced with a high level of aggression in a given family, who wants to both challenge parents and support them to bring those levels of aggression down. How does that practitioner do that in a way that she or he maintains a position of nonviolence, understanding nonviolence in a very wide sense? How does the practitioner do that? What is it when we are truly nonviolent in our position towards the parents? How do we do that? How do we express that?
I guess for each practitioner it may differ or be varied. I think there's something really valuable about asking a parent how they felt after they lost it and exploring with them those feelings. I think sharing some real life experiences of your own in terms of how you as a practitioner are challenged by perhaps your own family or work environment to remain peaceful and non-violent. I think the change can develop by unpicking certain scenarios. I think the practitioner can encourage the parent for their small efforts at the beginning. I've worked with many parents who have really struggled of being just to start that process of being non-violent because of many things and many reasons. But I'll encourage, and invite that parent to say, I wonder if you could share with me in this week each time that you've resisted shouting. I wonder what that would look like, and I wonder how you might share that with me in a text through the week. And then when we have a face-to-face session, or that we can build on that. So Thursday you sent me a text, and you were really proud of yourself for not losing it with Johnny. How come?
So you've just answered that question in so many different ways. So one thing that I think I understood from what you were saying is, as the practitioner, we take a non-judgmental position. We are not in the business of blaming the parents. We actually normalize some of the parents' experience by sharing when we have felt challenged in similar ways. That's one possibility. Without giving permission. So you can normalize the parent's experience. You can express empathy and compassion without giving permission to do that. So we're not saying, yeah, it's okay to shout at your child, or, oh yeah, well, never mind. We all shout at our kids at some point. We don't do that. But we empathize as much as we can, and we normalize their response so we don't put ourselves above the client. And then we look with them at the exceptions to the problem. When they have been able successfully to act with self-control, and then afterwards with emotional self-regulation. And I think that's very, very important. I'm just thinking, I worked with parents one time who were very concerned about their son's involvement in drug dealing, drug taking, and gang activity. And it turned out that the father was a habitual cannabis user. Used cannabis every evening after dinner. And we discussed the fact that he could not credibly challenge his son's drug taking, drug dealing, gang affiliation, as long as he himself is stoned every evening.
Do as I do as I say.
Yeah. And he said, well, but that's not the same. He said, he uses and he sells Class A drugs. I said, no, it's not exactly the same. But what is the message that you're going to give him when you do something about your own habit? And that became an area for conversation, and the father enrolled himself in a program because he really was hooked on cannabis. He felt he had to smoke cannabis every evening, and sometimes it turned out, of course, there was a lot more in the morning as well, and so on and so forth. And the ideas of, well, he doesn't know that I smoke cannabis because I go outside the house. I said, yeah, really? So when the father got enrolled in a drug program, things began to change, because I think at that point, the father's or the parents' demands of the son became credible.
Yeah, strong stuff. Making pledges and commitments to self,
and
to have self-control.
And I think the NVR practitioner's job, our job, is then to support the parents in making that commitment. Not just saying, oh, you've got to do this, but to really help them see this through.
Not an easy challenge by any means.
No, but doable.
Doable, yeah.
Should we just sort of pull together what it's about? Is there a way of pulling together what we've been discussing? Well, I think you did that, didn't you? When you said, don't do as I do as I say. We need to help parents get to a place of saying, do as I do. And it's our job as the practitioner to help the parents do as they want their child to do also.
Be the parent, be the best parent that I want to be. I think that's a lovely, strong message sometimes for parents to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
What parent do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And then how can you achieve that? What would you need to put in place to be the best parent you want to be?
Yeah.
Driving little force, really.
And then subsequently, I, as the practitioner, how can I help in that?
Yeah. What efforts can I make?
Yeah.
Okay. Short one. As always, if anyone would like any more information, they can email at info@partnershipprojectsuk.com. Otherwise, we'll speak again in a fortnight. Take care. Bye-bye.
And bye from me.